This is episode 6 with your host, George Padilla, and we've got our co-host, Alijah Lundgren.
Hey, what's up, George?
What's up, buddy? So, a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
First off, I'd love to talk about kind of playing with the idea and what it's like to open up a studio.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that.
That would be super exciting, and there's a lot more to come to that.
Yeah, I would love to pick your brain on a couple things, and but that's going to be kind of that. I think that's going to be a pretty beefy conversation. So maybe we should start it off with something a little more light.
Oh,
How was your weekend?
I love that idea.
Thank you.
So stay tuned for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Don't go nowhere.
Weekend was great, man.
Yeah.
You and I both actually went to a wedding.
We did.
And we photographed in Astoria, Oregon.
At this really cool, I think it was a 120-year-old building.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 120-year-old hotel in
Correct.
downtown Astoria. And man,
The venue is called the Ruins at, I forget what it's called. The Ruins
I can't remember
in,
either.
I forget. Anyways, man, that venue, as a photographer, that venue was great. It was like broken down.
It's called the Ruins at the Astor.
The Ruins at the Astor.
Yeah.
Great venue.
So it was kind of cool because there's two doors into this venue, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the doors goes into like the elevator for the
the hotel, yeah.
And then the other door goes into like a lobby area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that lobby area is this old, beaten down, broken, like it was like it sounds bad, but it's like tastefully broken down.
Yeah, and also I'm talking like broken down, like the pillars holding the structure together.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the wooden beams under it, but everything was broken down,
Like chunks,
cracked,
like chunks of things missing. There's like holes in the ceiling. It was just like, and I know this sounds like bad, but man, it just had so much character.
It did.
It was such a cool environment, especially for the particular couple that we worked with. It really, really, really fit their vibe.
Their vibe, their style. Like, they were great people to work with. And they took care of us at the end of the day. The entire wedding, they made sure that we were taken care of.
Yeah, they really did.
And even after the wedding, they're like, hey, man, like, you guys made such a great team. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep in touch, so on and so forth. And we were like, man, this is like, we feel like family already.
Right. I came up to the groom, like, I don't know, probably an hour or so before we left. I walked up to the groom because he was just kind of by himself for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked up to him and he was like, hey, man, can I give you a hug?
That's awesome.
And he gave me a hug and he was like, man, I just want to thank you for being at my wedding. Like, It wasn't thank you for taking photos. It wasn't thank you for, working.
Yeah.
It was, hey, I just want to thank you for being here and experiencing this with all of us. Like, he was like, I could tell he was just in this moment of just like appreciation for the night he was having.
Exactly.
It was really cool.
Throughout the wedding, like, we also found out that they're artists,
yeah.
And I mean, we don't know them at that level of their art.
Right.
They're obviously, it's their wedding. They're not going to be like, hey, I'm an artist. And like, here's my things. Like, that'd
be tight though.
It would be.
Well,
tight.
Actually, in a way they did, because the bride made all of like the table settings and everything that was all the decorations there.
Yeah.
The bride made.
Yeah.
Which it was beautiful.
Man, those photos are great. I can't wait to show them. But anyways, I'd love to, like, we've recapped a little bit about what happened this weekend, but like, I kind of want to jump into like the nitty gritty.
Yeah,
here.
you're feeling antsy.
I'm feeling antsy, man.
What did we just talk about the wedding for 3 minutes?
4 minutes and 15 seconds.
All right,
to be
man.
exact.
Well, let's jump in.
It's a good recap of the wedding.
Sure.
Of the weekend, I should say.
Sure.
So New Wave Media has plans to open up a studio in the future. May not be tomorrow or next week. It may not even be until next year. No, we don't know that yet. But I want to touch a little bit on, we've been playing with the idea of opening up a studio and establishing a location where people can just go and create and rent the space and have everything that they need.
Yeah. And also a space for us to create, once this gets done, like the New Wave Media podcast will move into that studio permanently. Mm-hmm.
most of our studio work that we do will be done in our studio.
Yeah.
Like
it'll be a great collaborative space for others and us, and it'll also be a great space for us to create our content. So
yeah, and I think it's very scary knowing that we want to go into this as a brand. We want to establish a brand name that will cater to creatives out there, not just with like the podcast. Like you guys are listening to us and you guys are getting to know us in a different type of way, but also like there's going to be a studio space where people can go and create.
Yeah.
Like we will be there. We will be managing the studio and, so on and so forth. So like, not only can you see us and know about us in the podcast, but like you can go somewhere and we're there. We're real people.
Yeah.
And
we are not AI.
We are not
yet.
AI.
Not yet. Okay, bud. All right.
So, and one of the big things about opening up the studio is like, I want to do it in a way where I could have input from other creatives.
Yeah.
I don't want to open something up for me.
Right.
I want to open up something for me, but also for everybody else
for the
out
community, there. Right? That's what we've talked about since day one of this podcast is everything that we do through New Wave Media, we want to do to benefit the community.
Exactly.
We want to do, and that includes opening this studio. One of the things that we've really been talking about is, as we start to get closer in this process and as we start to get to that point where it's like, okay, what decisions do we make about what goes into the studio?
What does it take to get there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, let me back up. One of the things we want to do is get that community input. But one of the things, there's a lot of things that we have to do before we get to the point where community input is as needed.
Yes.
Right? Like, what have we been doing? What kind of stuff? How have we been approaching this so far?
So what you're asking is like, we should just tell the people like,
this is
what have we done
where
in order to
where are we at in the process, right?
Okay, perfect. So let me touch on that a little bit here. So the goal is to open up a studio. The goal is to create a community and give everybody an input to what they would like to see opening up in their town.
Right.
Now, in order to get there, we've looked into locations.
How many have we toured so far?
I mean, not many, but considering
like four or five
locations that we've been looking at, and none of this is set in stone.
No, not at all.
We're just going in. What does it take? Right. What are the prices? How much do we need to pay?
It's research, and also getting an idea once we're in the space, like getting into a space and just visualizing, like how would we use this? What would we do here? Where would what go?
Exactly.
What would go where?
That's what. Yeah. And one of the cool things about this process is like every single studio or space that's, for lease, to create our own is like we've imagined where things would go. Nothing is set in stone. This isn't even a studio that we have established yet.
Right.
But we're visualizing. We're getting our brains going to understand like if this was our studio, where would this go? Where would that go?
Yeah. And it helps us to really take it seriously too. It helps to make it, I don't know how many photographers I know that have talked about, man, I would love to have a studio. I know for me personally, like coming up as a photographer, like all I wanted ever was to have a studio, but that's a pipe dream,
exactly.
And what we're doing right now is getting into a space where like, the more we go see, the more research we do, the more like we visualize this, the more we manifest this, and the more that this becomes real.
Exactly. So. And we've gone to the extent of, there's things in place. Like I have an attorney involved. We've looked at places. We've looked at pricing. We've mapped things out as far as like 3 years. Yeah. Really get an idea of how much does it take.
Floor plans on floor plans.
Exactly. And we've even put together lists of like, what exactly do we need? What props do we need? What lighting? What professional equipment do we need to get this up and running?
And what services do we want to offer in general?
Exactly. And how much of this is how much is it going to take to get this up and running?
Right. Right.
Because we can't just have something running.
It's the dog's first debut on this podcast.
Man. Okay. Yeah, there we go.
There they are.
So we can't just have a place and just be like, oh, it's established. Like, no, we have to really have the funds in case, hey, maybe the studio, nothing happens and we have a, 2 or 3 year lease.
Yeah.
So we've gone in pretty deep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in the works. And this is kind of an opportunity to us to talk about, like, what can we ask or what can we do to get everybody else's input?
Yeah.
Every creative person out there, from models to photographers, videographers, anyone else doing podcasts, like, what do you want to see in a studio? So that way, when we establish something and open something up, like, we're catering to everyone.
Right.
We want this to be a community-based space.
Yeah. And I think that, we'll come with a survey of some sort. We'll come with some way that we can send this out and get people's feedback. But, I want to know a lot of things. I want to know, people who have rented spaces, what has gone right? What has a studio space or a creative space they've rented had that they loved? And also what's gone wrong? What has if you've rented a studio or a creative space, what did you wish was better? What did you wish could have been different?
Yes.
And also, like, even asking preferences on, like, hey, do you want a studio? Like, do you prefer a studio to be natural light? Do you prefer a studio to have equipment you can rent? Do you prefer a studio to have both? Or would you prefer to bring your own lighting? Would you prefer to bring your own props? All of these things are considerations for us that really help us, like, figure out what we need to provide.
Yeah.
So I think that we have some ideas for how to do this outreach and how to, like, get this input. And I think that in the coming weeks or so, we'll have some sort of survey that'll go out that we hope that people will share with one another.
I want to kind of establish something here. Every podcast, we're like, hey, we're cooking something. Hey, something's kind of in the works. Like, this is what we've been working on.
Yeah,
this is
one of the big things. This is probably the big thing.
Exactly.
We've been working on.
And we have a lot of inspiration from other studios around the town, around Portland that we've been to.
Even outside of Portland.
Exactly. Even outside of Portland, there's a couple in Seattle. I've done a couple in LA.
Yeah.
And, like, YouTube is a great resource to get more inspiration from as well. And, like, there's a lot of different ways we can make this kind of be visually nice, but, like, it's not about visuals. It's about, like, what will you use? What will you, the audience, use?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're doing this for everyone, not just for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, for example, one thing that I would want in there would be a little office space for just the two of us where we go and we work. And then the rest of the space.
That's a big thing, I think, for both of us is, like, once we're in a space like this, that becomes the night. That's the office.
Exactly.
That's where we go to work.
I mean, this podcast that you're watching us now, this is just at my home.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want this to be at my home.
Right.
I want this to be in a studio where we don't have to set up, break down. I need to use this space for other things.
Absolutely.
So, like,
and imagine what this space could be if we had all of the camera gear, all of the equipment in a studio, And that's the thing, I think, for us. Like, for us, Mondays are a work day. I get here in the morning. Usually we podcast in the morning, and then we try to do other New Wave Media related things for kind of the rest of the day, Monday.
Yeah.
The place where that's going to change is
we treat it as our 9 to 5. And so far we've established 2 days, Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mondays and Wednesdays. Yeah.
And as the brand grows, we have a studio and we have things in place. I would love to treat it as a 9 to 5, creative. That is our job. That's our career. Like, I want to do this.
Exactly. And so this is the goal. This is kind of a long-winded way to say, like, the goal behind this studio is twofold. The goal behind this studio is to get us a creative space, a creative office, a place for us to build New Wave Media as a brand.
Exactly.
And also for us to build community and to provide a place for others to build their own brands and their own businesses and their own portfolios, and give a fresh place to shoot in Portland. Like, there's a bunch of studios in Portland. A lot of them are awesome. A lot of them, I haven't been to every studio, but every studio I've been to in Portland has been great in one way or another. They've had something great about them. And, like, we just want to add something new. We want to add something fresh, and we want to find a way to make it different, make it unique.
we're also kind of playing with the idea of making it unique in terms of where we want to establish a studio. Like, I mean, we don't want to put it far away from everyone, where it's like no one's going to be able to reach it all the time. However, when we do put it into a location, I want it to be in a location where it's like, whether it's a natural light studio or whatever studio we decide to get, like you can go outside and there is more around the neighborhood or wherever the location is. Like I would love for that to be an extra extended thing. Like, hey,
absolutely,
we're just off, I don't know, like a river of some sort. And like, we're just, there's that. You can shoot that if you want to. Like that's another spot for you.
Yeah. I know that, in the time that we've both spent at Cobalt, there's a lot of times where people will finish shooting at Cobalt and then they're like, okay, what are you doing next? Do you want to go like up the street and do XYZ? Like
there's a lot of great suggestions too. It's like, hey, if you just go down Powell and you exit, or maybe not even all the way over the bridge, but like the river's right down the street from there,
Right. And so it's that's one thing about Cobalt in particular that I've always really liked is that the location is close to a lot of food. It's close to like really cool urban environments where you can get some like outdoor portraits. It's close to parks. It's close to a lot of different stuff.
It's pretty central.
It's very like central. And that makes it really nice because like people can book 2 hours at your studio and then they can shoot for longer than 2 hours if they want to do some outside on location stuff too.
Yeah, I agree.
So especially like when we've had people in there shooting like music videos and stuff, like that's almost always what they do next is they leave the studio
to add a little bit more of that. Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, there's obviously you can tell by the way that we're just kind of like talking about this. Like there's so much on our minds and so much passion and like excitement behind this whole concept for us.
So with the studio as being one big step to the future, I also want to maybe brush in a little bit of like what we want to create as far as like content creation. We're very motivated to do I mean, we've got a lot of stuff in the works, like behind the scenes videos. We're doing the podcast. I would love to be into a studio where it's actually everything else is an extension of that studio.
Right. Exactly.
And we can create content. I want to be able to deliver useful videos to anyone out there, whether they're photographers or like we can put together workshops and, hey, do you need posing? Do you want to are you a beginner photographer? Like, let's bring it in. Like we've been to a lot of these
triangle workshop. Let's go.
Let's do it, man. Yeah. Like, hey, you guys want to just do yoga on a Monday morning and just start the week great?
Right.
Dude, come on by to the studio. Let's do a yoga sesh and do a couple portraits and hey, we're out. Like,
and also, in terms of like creating content, like that's going to give us a really consistent space where we can make even like basic YouTube videos, like educational stuff, like how to shoot in a natural light studio.
Exactly.
How to see light, how to, like you said, posing, like working on posing, working on exposure, all of these different things. Like this is content that we can create a unique twist on and we can do it in our own space that's consistent and like what you're going to get when you get one of those videos.
Exactly. So. I think that would be a very unique way to like you said last time, there was I think it's MKBHD.
Yeah.
He says like he only wants to make videos he'll watch.
Yeah, he makes, that's his thing, is he makes videos he would want to watch.
I want to be similar, is like why do I need to make a video of X, Y, and Z just to get views? Like I want to make video of like teaching you what you can do at the studio.
Yeah.
Teaching you, hey, you don't know lighting? Let's jump on it and let's do something.
Well, we also want to practice a little bit of transparency through this process because this is new to us. And part of what we've talked a lot about is creating videos and creating content around learning through this process. Like when we start building out this studio, like there's going to be videos of that. There's going to be behind the scenes of that because we're going to be green at this,
You're going to be seeing the nitty gritty headaches of, maybe there is no headaches. Maybe there is headaches.
There's going to be headaches.
Making this studio work and run.
Absolutely.
And the behind the scenes of that part of it, bringing everybody along through the process, I think would be
maybe like a vlog or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And like that would bring a lot of, anyone out there trying to start something, like, watch it from us. Like we don't know anything, but we're going in at this, like we have an idea of how to do all this and let's jump into it And we've got people that can back us in legal ways and in the right direction. But at the same time, we don't know what we're getting into until we're there.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about opening a business with zero clientele.
Mm-hmm.
And, we know that we have friends and we have family out there that are into the things we're into and will help support us to start, but that only goes so far. So we know we have to kick it off with a bang, and we know that we have to provide something quality in order to create sustainability.
I agree. I want to provide a safe space. First of all, like I've been to many studios where, almost all of them, I've felt welcomed. Yeah. I've felt invited.
It's warm.
And also just kind of like for the Portland area, like have an AC and heater.
Yeah,
man, I don't even have that at my own home. So
it's needed.
It would be cool to have that in the studio and have it run full time, all year around. So, there's so much to it, and I can't wait to start this journey.
Me either.
So I know we've brushed on a lot of the studio stuff and what we see in the future, but I think like we want to keep it short today. I think it's being able to express what's in our minds and keep it simple and short.
Yeah.
The plan is to bring some video out and kind of have anyone else out there give input into this.
Yeah.
So that this is why we're keeping it short. We're going to work on something.
We'll expand on this whole thing a little bit more as we get a little bit closer to some hard details.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we will come out with something that's a lot more personal, a lot more direct. It's not just a podcast. And
exactly. I wanted to have we're going to be working on the website as well.
Yeah.
A website for New Wave Media.
Yeah, that's coming.
And studio is going to be in there. There's going to be the podcast. Everything's going to be by New Wave Media.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that, man, for this journey to go. And
I think that we are in the beginning stages of some really big things right now. And I think that those of you that are out there along this journey with us, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. And, any supporters out there, having them stand here with us, like I said in the first episode.
Also,
yes,
join the Discord, please.
We haven't pushed the Discord.
We haven't pushed the Discord. I haven't talked about it in the last couple episodes.
We've been busy doing other stuff.
Busy. Discord is still slowly growing. We need to. We definitely do. We need to get a little bit more on that. But we would love to have you in there. We would love to have you help us grow this thing. Discord's going to be a really good place for us to communicate directly with people. So with that, you can find us. You can find me at georgepadillaphotography.com/links. Everything you need to know is in that bio and links. And eventually we'll be changing the website, or a website. We'll be creating one for New Wave Media. It's coming.
And don't be afraid to reach out. You have questions, you have pointers, you have ideas. Hey man, reach out. We're very open.
Tell us we suck. That's okay too.
You can.
It's okay. It's not very nice, but it's okay.
So where can we find you, Elijah?
The people can find me at alloveimages.com, www.alloveimages.com. / bio. I guess you can do alloveimages.com/bio, and that has all my links. But if you just want to check out my website, alloveimages.com. Boom. See you later, y'all.